Hi, folks, and welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. I'm your host, David Susan, and I am so excited to have my guest today, Alex Rodriguez. He's the CEO of Conduit Government Relations. They're a government affairs and strategic communications firm working in Washington, D.C., and he's the chairman and CEO of DCG Public Affairs, California-based advisory firm that he founded to help organizations lead with clarity, integrity, and influence. So, for more than 30 years, he's advised Fortune 500 companies, public agencies, nonprofit leaders on high stakes decisions where policy, power, and public perception meet. I love that alliteration: policy, power, public perception. Did you do that on purpose? That was really good. I like that.
It wasn't on purpose, but after I wrote it, it's like, oh yeah, this is
It
nice.
worked out beautifully. Get this. Alex was appointed by President Joe Biden, and he serves on the U.S. EPA's National Drinking Water Advisory Council. And he was recently reappointed by Governor Gavin Newsom to his second term on the Central Coast Regional Water Board. He's a seasoned strategist, lifelong martial artist, and he brings the discipline and mindset of a fifth degree black belt in Hapkido to every boardroom and negotiation. Don't cross Alex. He will kick your tail. He's a published author. Alex's body of work includes The Way of Walking Alone, 12 Lessons from the Martial Arts, A Stick in Time, and 365 Days of Martial Valor, which is a daily meditation guide. He's a Santa Barbara native. He's known for transforming pressure into precision and for helping leaders turn complex challenges into defining moments of leadership. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, David. And I need to pay somebody, whoever wrote that, I need to make sure that they get paid very well.
Big box. AI, maybe. I don't care. Hey, I don't have a problem with AI because I feel if you are a president of a company or a governor or a CEO, you have speech writers that help you because they're, hey, I just feel AI is my speech writer, they're my editor. So I'm not going to ask you who wrote yours, but it was really good though. I
It
love it.
was me. It was me. Oh, and believe it or not, I started writing that back in 1995. And it's like every 6 months to a year, I update it, I massage it, I take a whole paragraph out of my bio, put in a new one. So that's been around or since 1995, I guess.
Well, it's beautiful. It works because it tells so
Thank
much
you.
enough about you, and it gives me insight into some of the questions I want to ask you. I'd like to just start by what you do today and tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So what I do today is I advise CEOs, general managers, boards on communication strategies, mostly with the government, whether it's state government, local government, the federal government. That can be an elected body. It can be agencies, staff at agencies. A lot of times people forget that you have people that have been there 15, 20, 25 years that are just so full of knowledge, but yet they decide to go to the guy that was just appointed head of the agency for their gripe or their request or what have you. But it's a guy that's been sitting in his cubicle for those 15, 20 years, or the young lady that's been there that has way more influence. So I help companies or my clients identify those people and then figure out ways to reach out to them and engage with them. Uh, whether it's I'm not a lobbyist, so first of all, I don't want to be a lobbyist. I'm an advisor, so I can tell people this is what you need to talk to this person. I can reach out on their behalf, depending on where this agency is or this person is. Uh, Set up a meeting, go with them on these meetings. and more than anything, craft a strategy for where they want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, from a political, quasi-political point of view.
That's really cool. And that navigating, I know we had chatted about that a little bit, navigating those politics, maybe the wrong word, navigating the organization, the people who've been there, that that's worth its weight in gold. And I wish I would have known you years ago because I've worked with state and federal. I've worked, Sandia Labs and EPA and navigating and understanding it if you don't live in that world, but you're trying to do business with them or lobby or
Hmm.
influence or get funding or legislation. Just understanding, I mean, that's worth its weight in gold. So I'll bet they get a lot of value from you. So,
Well, and my company, Conduit Government Relations, my partner is based in Maine, but he worked for the federal government going back to the mid 90s. He was a Clinton appointee in the Department of Commerce, moved around within the federal government. In the last 15 years before he retired, he was the chief legislative officer at USDA, focusing on food and nutrition services, SNAP, food stamps. Um,
mm,
I met him in 1995. We became great friends. We always talked about working together. When he retired in 2000 or in 2021, we said, all right, let's do it. So, as you can imagine, with his experience, uh, we're able to navigate Congress very well. And again, we don't lobby, but we know where the pressure points are. We know who to avoid, what to avoid. And we have clients that are in agriculture, that are in uh, trying to address hunger issues. And because of his experience, it's a perfect fit for us.
that's fascinating. Now, that is the conduit part of the business.
Yes.
With DCG, which you mentioned in the intro there, and you talk about advisory firm to help organizations lead with clarity, integrity, and influence. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we work with local companies, or I shouldn't say locals, companies in California, agencies, government agencies that have issues. I do a lot of work in water, for instance. And one of the best leaders that I've ever come across was a gentleman named Kevin Kelly. He was a general manager of the Imperial Irrigation District. He and I met in Sacramento. We were sitting outdoors, and he reached out, asked me, hey, he was sitting at the table next to me and said, hey, do you have a lighter? And I said, I don't smoke. It's like, so we got to talking, and he goes, where do I know you from? I said, well, I'm live in Santa Barbara, blah, blah, blah. Where are you from? He goes, I'm from the Imperial Valley. We kept talking, and I was born and raised there as well. It turns out that we played baseball against each other in high school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so he remembered. I don't remember the game, but he did. And so I gave him my card. About 4 months later, I got a phone call from him and said, hey, we want to talk to you about helping us with some public outreach, some communication work on the Salton Sea, which is California's largest lake. It's an ecological disaster. The lake bed is receding. I mean, we could do a 3-hour segment just on that. But um, so they invited me down. I brought a friend of mine who's a former legislator. Look, he lives here in Santa Barbara. We went down there and pitched him and two board members, and they hired us. If you look up Lithium Valley, anybody can Google Lithium Valley. There's a huge lithium deposit down at the Salton Sea, and that was the work that we did, the precursor work, I guess, that we did. They brought us in to talk about, or to work on the Salton Sea, which is a nexus between the Colorado River and energy, the nexus of water and energy, because they also do renewable energy, or it's a public uh, public agency that does water and power. So, we started working on that. Eventually, our portfolio expanded. We started doing work on Colorado River issues and agriculture, other issues. And we wound up working with them for like 13 years. And three times I tried, when our contract came up for renewal, three different times, I said, I don't think I want to do this anymore. No, no, you have to, you have to, you have to. He convinced me twice to stay, and one board member convinced me another time to stay on. And they have elected body that new board members come in, and it was a good time for us to go, and we did. And because of that, I was exposed to two new areas, right? Lithium, precious minerals, or uh, and water policy, Western water policy, which is even more encompassing than anything. So, but going back to Kevin, he was a fabulous leader, very mild mannered, but he got stuff done.
So, what do you think when you look at the individuals in your career that you've worked with that were the most impactful leaders? What do you think their greatest strength was? What was it that they did well? What made them great leaders in your mind, however you define great leadership?
In my mind, two things: communications, the ability to communicate, whether it's one-on-one or to a group of 1,000 people that are watching, at a conference, listening to them speak, and empathy. And that is one of the, for lack of a better term, virtues that I strive towards. And that's been embedded in me since I started doing martial arts. I was 8 years old when I started doing martial arts. And if you do the math, I'm 61, so I've been doing it for 53 years. It was actually 53 years in July that I've been doing martial
Crazy.
arts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. But
Always Hapkido?
no, 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 no. I started off, my first and second black belts were in Kung Fu. I got my first one when I was 12 years old, my second one when I was 14. I've got black belts in Yoshin Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, which is a traditional jiu-jitsu art. I've got a second degree black belt in that. I'm a certified instructor in Jeet Kune Do, which is a martial art that
Oh,
Bruce Lee
right,
uh,
right.
created. And it's not really a martial art. We call it that, but it isn't. It's more of a philosophy. The lineage that I got it from, my instructor studied under Jerry Poteet, who passed away about 6 years ago, I guess. And his tag, he was Bruce Lee's last student to be certified as an instructor. His tagline was philosophy in motion. And I kind of try to keep that mentality going. But I've been doing Hapkido now since 2023 or 2003, so 22 years. And you mentioned that fifth degree black belt. In 10 days, I'm testing for my sixth degree black belt, which
I'm
is a
gonna have
little
to do a
nerve
follow
wracking.
up and talk to you about that. That's
Do it the
amazing.
day after, because then I'll be bruised, cut, probably sprained ankle or something,
Nice,
bandages.
nice. Well, so let's. So tell me, Tuck. I want to hear about the connection in your mind between. I mean, you mentioned empathy, but what is the connection as you look at leadership, whether it's your own leadership or leadership of someone else, and martial arts? Is there a connection? And if there is, what is the connection in your mind?
But to me, there is a connection. Leading by example, quiet leadership, compassion. At our school, we have 5 tenets that we follow: courtesy, integrity, self-control, perseverance, indomitable spirit. But we always say that we have the unwritten sixth tenet, which is compassion. And that can be compassion for a fellow student, for someone that I'm trying to teach a technique to and they're not getting it, someone that's a junior student to me that I'm sparring with. I'm not going to beat them up. I'm there to help them get better. Or it can be compassion for the unhoused person or family that's asking for money on the street. Um, it can be, compassion for someone that I don't like. We have different views on whatever. They get irritated at me. They flip me off because I cut them off or whatever. In the moment, it's easy to get upset with them again, or back at them. But then it's like, wait a second, they're a human being. I don't know what they're going through. And that goes to whether, if I'm leading a team, right? I don't know what happened to her last night. I don't know what happened to him the day before, why their performance is down, why their mind isn't in it. And, I can either sit there and try to coax it out of them. I can, or the other extreme, just let them work it out themselves, or somewhere in the middle way, which is the way I kind of prefer to do just about anything that I do, right? I don't always succeed at that. You know, I tend to overeat on occasion, or I tend to blow off going on a walk, right? So, the middle way is not eating too much and walking afterwards. Um, I'm kind of digressing here, but to me, yeah, leadership starts at home. It starts with friends, and it carries all the way into the boardroom. And if part of my language, can I cuss? Is it okay? If I'm an asshole in the boardroom, that means I'm probably an asshole at home.
The second one today that's used that word, by the way,
Well,
on
it's a
on
good
my
word to.
podcast. So I
And my
said it was okay
apologies.
this morning. I hope it's okay. We'll find out.
I could have said worse, but I won't.
You could have said
Um,
worse, right? That we
eh,
would bleep something else.
yeah, exactly. And again, to me, leadership is that quiet leadership. Leading with integrity, leading by example, trying to be balanced in everything that I do. One of the books that I wrote is A Stick of Time. We spoke last week. Um, it's an old custom, and I knew about it many, many years ago, but watching an episode of Shogun, that was the name of one of the titles, the 10th episode. And I saw the title. It's like, oh, I wonder if that's what I think it is. And it was. They, I need to meet with you. Sure, I'll give you a stick in time, or a stick of time. That's a stick of incense. They would light an incense and they would sit there and talk. Same with meditation, right? That's in Zen, one of
So
the,
I want to let's
yes.
clarify that for our listeners. Is what they're saying is you have as long as it takes for this stick of incense to burn
Yeah.
to talk. So a stick of time would be roughly like maybe
Well,
20
20
minutes,
minutes.
depending. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
20 minutes. I mean, some sticks, obviously are longer and they burn longer. Some are shorter, so they burn quicker.
So
But, in meditation, Zen meditation, that's one of the practices, right? Light a stick of incense and meditate. Which I'm a big, I try to meditate every day, and it keeps, it keeps my head clear.
and
Um,
is there? So let's talk about your head, right? We talk about inside the leader's mind. Is there a connection from a stick of time to leadership?
Oh, absolutely. For me, there is. That doesn't mean,
And what's your
7 billion other.
interpretation? What's your connection?
My interpretation of it is don't make a decision, or if I need to make a decision, it should not take me longer than a stick of incense burning to make the decision, an important decision. What are we going to have for dinner? Oh, let's have Chinese food tonight. All right, that's easy. But if, there's something pressing, something critical, we need to make a decision. Well, let me meditate on it, or let me light a stick of incense and think about it. And again, that's to me. 7 billion other people on the planet may not agree with that, and I'm sure most won't. But to
But
me,
we can't
th-
speak for them. We can just speak for what's inside
exactly,
your leader's mind, right? Inside your mind.
exactly, and in my mind, I try to keep it as empty as possible. And I don't mean not to think, but thoughts come in and out, and I
Yeah.
try not to focus on a thought, especially a thought that's irrelevant, that's negative. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was talking to me about she's going through imposter syndrome right now. She's getting ready to test for her first black belt. One of my students, and I told her, all you're doing is beating yourself up, thinking about this. That's what's making you think you're an imposter, because you're just focusing too much on this. Think of something else. Forget that you're even doing martial arts. Forget that you have a business to run. Forget that you're married. Just focus on yourself. Focus on nothing. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Last Samurai. with
Oh, sure.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
If you remember, there's the scene, they're kind of beginning to like the guy a little bit more. And there's a scene where they're fighting with bokens, wood swords,
Mhm.
out in this little pasture area. And Tom Cruise keeps getting hit. And so the young boy that's kind of his adopted son runs up to him and he starts telling him, too many minds, which is his way of saying you're thinking too much.
Thinking, yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of, I especially when I sit down on my cushion or when I'm training, I don't think of any. I try not to think of anything.
They clear the
I'm not
mind.
always successful, but
Yeah. Yeah, well,
and yeah, the
that's
leader's
always that
mind, mine's
challenge.
empty.
So I want to go back to something you said earlier. A couple things you mentioned about leading with empathy, and you talked about compassion and some other things related to martial arts, and the sixth. I think that was the sixth unwritten rule that you
Hmm.
picked.
Yep.
What would you say to a leader, especially a hard driving, if we're talking disc, profile, maybe they're a high D, a director, driver, personality, or any individual that says, "Hey, that's a bunch of bunk. Leading with empathy, leading with compassion is weakness." What's your take in your mind on on that perception that maybe empathy or compassion is actually a weakness, not a strength?
To him it is, or to her it is. That's their outlook, and that's fine. Um, I'm not going to sit there and argue with them about it because I'm not going to change their mind probably. What I can tell them is my own experience. And, I may not have a $40 million company that I run. I don't want that. A long time ago, a friend of mine, he had owned a huge PR firm, sold it, and then opened up a small one. And it was just him, his wife, and he had one employee. And I asked him, how many employees did you have at your old firm? He goes, I had 145. And why do you only have James working for you now and your wife, Wendy? He said, because back then I had 145 headaches. Now I only have one, and that's James. I don't have to deal with all that other stuff. I use vendors, contractors like you, which I was a sub for him on several projects. And to me, that's what I want. I don't need two, three, four homes. I mean, I'm certain I could have that if that's what I wanted. Uh, I want I want peace of mind. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my life. And anybody that says that empathy is weakness, I tell them, all right, but how's your blood pressure? How's your cholesterol? When was the last time you went for a run or did something fun with your family? Came home at 5 o'clock. I work from home. I mean, when my kids were little, I grew up without a father, and I had the pleasure, honor, whatever you want to call it, of being raised by a beautiful, strong woman. My wife, my daughter, my mom, all three of them fit that mold. And the one thing that I learned by not having a father is I didn't have a father figure in my life, a real father figure, with the exception of a couple of uncles. So what I did when my kids were little, it's like, hey, want to hang out today instead of going to preschool? Want to go to Dodger game tomorrow? Opening day, let's go. Right. So I was able to do those things, spend time with my kids, and I was more than happy to sacrifice whether it was wealth, power, position, whatever it was, to be able to spend time with my kids. So that now my son is a chef, my daughter is a professor of art, and my wife and I can retire if we want to. Neither of us want to. I think she's probably a little bit more than I she's closer to being ready, and I could have retired 15, 20 years ago if I wanted to, but I love doing what I do. And if people want to say that I'm weak, okay, you can say all you want about me, I don't care. You can call me a bastard if you want, I am, so it doesn't bother me.
Well, I think that's got to be some of the I mean, people I know who I've got a number of friends that are, fifth, it's the same thing, fifth degree, and there is a quiet confidence that they have it's interesting how martial arts is such a mental aspect of that it is in the individual, and that how that can translate to the boardroom or into a meeting or
Mhm.
into leadership. um it really fascinating, and having, I think a lot of it is just having the discipline, right?
And that's it right there. It's the discipline. And that discipline has kept me out of trouble. I've been doing martial arts 53 years. I've never been in a fight. I've come close multiple times, but that discipline is what's kept me out of it. In part because I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to have to pay for somebody's hospital bills, even though they're the aggressor. Um, I've defended myself a couple of times, but I've never hit anybody. Um, and it's that discipline, and that's why I'm up at 4 in the morning. It's a discipline to get up and sit on my cushion right next to where I'm sitting right now and spend 30, 40 minutes focusing on nothing. And it, it
Calmness, and I can tell the calmness comes through as we speak here today, so I love it. I wanted to ask you, one of the things that you had mentioned, um, even in the introduction, you talked about this, is, and I'm going to read it right here because I was fascinated by this. It says, he's known for transforming pressure into precision. But here's the part that I want to ask you about it, and for helping leaders turn complex challenges into defining moments of leadership. Talk to me about that last part, turning challenges into a defining moment. What do you mean by defining moment of leadership?
so if I can give you an example, going back to
Absolutely.
going back to Kevin Kelly, the general manager, he passed away a couple of years ago, the general manager at the Imperial Irrigation District. Um, there was this big water transfer, the QSA, the Quantitative Settlement Agreement, where it was the largest ag to urban water transfer in the nation's history. Water from the Imperial Valley farmers that they get from the Colorado River. They have the largest allocation of Colorado River water in the country. Was sent to San Diego, mostly to San Diego, a little bit to LA, and is what was causing the Salton Sea, uh, the Salton Sea's shoreline to recede because there was less and less water going in there from agricultural runoff. And Kevin said, we need to figure something out. What can we do? So what we suggest that they do is go to the State Water Resources Control Board and file a petition to reopen the QSA. And if they wouldn't open it up, to just turn the water off. And he loved the idea. He said, I don't think I could get my board to buy into it. So we worked with them to the point where the board bought into the idea. They filed the petition. The Sunday before the meeting that we had at the State Water Board, the LA Times editorial board ran a great op-ed, or actually was an editorial piece that I set up the editorial board meeting. We went in, met with them 2 weeks prior, gave them all the information. We had actually one of the editors come down to the Imperial Valley. We did a tour of the ag land, the water, everything. So they write this op-ed. Now, the LA Times used to be a great paper. Since it was bought, it's a different story. But um, it's considered the paper of record in Sacramento. And even though there's a Sacramento Bee, the delegation from Southern California is so big that you go into just about every office and they have a copy of the LA Times. So it got read by everybody up there. We go into the meeting, we're doing this meeting, and one of the board members at the State Water Board, the former chair, said into her microphone, it was a whisper, but she said it loud enough for it to be picked up, and I think she did it intentionally. She said, if this was Sacramento, or if this was San Francisco, the problem would have been fixed years ago.
Mm.
So it was Kevin's leadership that put that flag in the sand and said, no, we're not going to do this. So because of that, the State Water Board created the Salton Sea Management Program. The state of California, now the state of California had agreed when the quantification settlement agreement was signed 23 years ago, had agreed to put 9.8 billion with a B dollars into restoration. At that time, they had put zero, which was 16 years later. So we twisted their arm, and the state is between the state and the feds now. They've put in somewhere in the neighborhood of about $450 million, which is a drop in the bucket compared to the 9.8 billion that they had committed. But that transformed the area, and there was transformation there with Kevin. There was transformation there with the board of directors. There was transformation with the county of Imperial for the residents, for the good of the residents. We used to be my associate Pedro and I would go up to Sacramento, and they'd see us walking down the street and say, "Hey, it's the Salton Sea guys," because we knew we were going to go in there and talk to them about the Salton Sea. And again, I digress. I kind of made this a bigger uh, answer to your question, but that to me is an example of helping a leader lead, lead with clarity, um, become transformative. And he was already there. All we did was kind of give him a little extra
Yeah.
um, to work with.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Well, because of time, we're down to our last question here. And that question is, what's the question you wish people would ask you, but they don't know to ask you?
What is the cost that you've paid to be whom you are?
Mm.
And there is a cost. I mean, I've been offered some great jobs over the years, but I love Santa Barbara. This is where my family was raised. I've been here since 1984. We just paid off our house less than a year ago. Um, I love being here. This is where my friends are. This is where I met my wife, married my wife. Uh, and that cost have been, let me backtrack. If I was uh, someone concerned about money, that has been the cost of doing what I do. Uh, Again, I've been offered some fabulous jobs, but it would have required me moving to New Jersey, New York, Miami, Dallas. All great places to visit. I love every one of those places, but I cannot see myself living in any of them. Unless I was single in my mid 20s, I could see myself living in all of them. But I'm not, right? I didn't want to commute 3 hours a day to not be able to see my kids grow up. I wound up coaching my son's little league team, my daughter's soccer team, my son's soccer team. I wouldn't trade that for the world. So the cost was monetary, financial, or if if I wanted to focus on that, that would be it. But um,
Opportunity.
yeah,
Opportunity also.
opportunity,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. I mean, there's going to be another life for me to do that if I want to. I believe that I'm here for a purpose and I'm serving that purpose. And I know that if I decide tomorrow, you know what, I'm going to do X. I'm going to give myself a year to do it. I know I'll do it. Um, and I think I mentioned this yet. One thing that we didn't talk about that I mentioned then when we talked a couple of days ago is, failure. I'm a huge proponent of failure. I want people to go out and fail, because if you don't fail, you're not trying. You're not taking risks. And Michael Jordan said it best: "I'm not afraid to fail because everybody fails at something. What I'm afraid of is not trying." And it's the dichotomy or the yin and the yang to what I just said about monetary loss or opportunity loss. Uh, there's always up the good and the bad, the black and the white, and I love living in that middle area, the gray.
Love that. Love that. Well, I've loved having you today and your insight. You've got your test in 6 days, do we say? Six?
On the 15th, November 15th.
So it's coming up. So I
Yeah,
want to wish you luck on that. But if someone wants to
thank
learn
you.
more, connect with you, learn more, what's the best way for them to do that? Or
They
to learn
can
about your book, anything like that.
Yeah, they can visit my website, dcgco.com, David Charlie George Charlie Oscar.com. For whatever reason, I got into the habit of saying it that way, just
That's
because.
a good way to do it,
Yeah,
though.
yeah. They can find my book, any of my books, on Amazon. Just type in Alex Rodriguez, The Way of Walking Alone, and it'll come up with my author page and the various books that I have. Um, and if anybody would like to reach out to me, I'd love to talk to them. Any martial artists out there who want to invite me to train in your school in London or Pretoria or Tokyo, I'd love to do that. Um, eh, I, I'm at a loss for words,
You're like giddy. You're
which is
giddy.
rare.
If you can watch it, he's so excited about that. It's that's so funny.
Oh
Well,
yeah, I love life. I mean, I've had a great life,
I love
and
it.
yeah, and I'm so grateful for everything that's happened to me, the good, the bad, the ugly. Uh, and yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, David. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
My absolutely my pleasure. And Alex, thank you so much for being here. And those of you that are listening or watching, thank you. If you're enjoying Inside the Leader's Mind, please share this. Please let us know, and spread the word. And if you have recommendations on guests, we always love having recommendations. But I'm David Susan, and this is Inside the Leader's Mind. And Alex, thank you again for being with me.
Thank you. Thank you.